there's a lot with the Mets. The Mets traded Eduardo Escobar to the Angels. Escobar didn't fit here. This lineup is horrible. The Mets and the Yankees have these injury problems that just don't help, especially when you're in talented divisions as the Mets are and the Yankees are. But honestly, if you look at the Mets right now and you look at the position that they're in with Buck Showalter, who this is his second full year as the Mets manager, where he could be on his way out. Buck is just not getting to the youngsters. And this has been the problem his whole career. He had this problem with the Yankees, with Derek Jeter and Bernie Williams. There were stories coming out that he didn't get along, and even Mariano Rivera, who he wanted to send down. And then you look at the Texas Rangers, young team, help build them. Let him go. Washington takes him to 2 World Series. The Diamondbacks helped him build. He leaves. They go to the World Series. Go look at his resume. All the teams. Baltimore was the only one that really didn't go to the World Series.
But they had a long rebuild because Buck didn't like the young players so much, they traded a lot of those guys away to get Mark Trumbo and Chris Davis and all these guys.
Which they're paying still.
They're paying Chris Davis still, yeah. Chris Davis is going to become the new Bobby Bonilla. I think they spread it out up until 2037.
Who's better than him?
It's interesting because the Rangers, when he was there, and the Mets are very similar now because the Rangers had a lot of top prospects at that time, too. Look how long it took Elvis Andrus to get called up when he was one of the best shortstop prospects in baseball, too. Jerks and Profar at the time, too. In 2009, I believe it was one of the best prospects in baseball. And now you're getting the same kind of thing with Francisco Alvarez, who was the number 1 prospect in baseball this year, and Brett Beatty, who's been a consistently top 20, top 30 prospect in baseball.
The only 2 guys that have stood out to me with the Mets is Nimmo, who got his money in the offseason, that's played well. Absolutely have. And Senga. Those are the only 2 guys. Everybody else, it's garbage baseball. Lindor's making too much money. He stinks. Pete Alonso was one of the hottest hitters in baseball, and some people thought he was an MVP candidate, and he's fallen out. He's back. But if you're a Met fan, you're not going to be very, very happy because a power bat takes a while to figure things out. So he could go up and go 0 for 20 or 0 for 30 before he hits a ball.
Not only that, he was hitting for a low on-base percentage, too. I was talking about it with the Yankees, too. Like, for a guy with that much power, his on-base percentage should be in at least 350, and it's not. It's been in the low 300s much of the year, too, and that has to do with a lot of the low batting averages, too. I think Pete Alonso, before he got hurt, just barely cracked 240 after struggling at the 220 mark for much of the season, and Lindor is going through that same kind of thing, too. And the one thing Lindor last year did that he's not doing as much this year is the situational hitting. He was very clutch for the Mets last year, but not this year, and it's just really been a problem. And now you're seeing a lot of these veteran guys just really lose it with Buck Showalter, and finally one gets traded. And Eduardo Escobar, they shed about $13 million. Hopefully they can use that maybe if they still try to contend, maybe to trade for a pitcher, but I don't know at this point. The Mets are just falling too far down, and teams like the Marlins and the Phillies are getting hot in their division, too, to go along with the Braves, which might be the best team in the National League.
Well, right now, the National League East is one of the best in all of baseball, and we all know about the American League East. No question the best in all of baseball. But again, the Mets and the Yankees haven't played really good baseball. The Mets are under 500. The Yankees are not, which is unbelievable for the injuries the Yankees have dealt with and really just lack of hitting. They're one of the worst hitting teams in baseball, 28th in runs scored.
And 28th in on-base percentage, too.
They're just horrible right now. They're not hitting, and I understand they depend on Aaron Judge, but one player can't help you win by himself. So that's an excuse, and the Yankees have nothing but excuses. Find a way to get out of these excuses and go out there on the field and actually win. Because right now, this is garbage baseball for both organizations, both teams. Steve Cohen, who guaranteed to win a championship in 5 years, now he's going on to his 4th year. It doesn't make sense. Buying players don't work, and the Yankees have known that ever since, I would say, 2014.
Jacoby Ellsbury.
Yeah. After that, it was over.
Meanwhile, Robinson Cano made his rich money in Seattle, then went to the Mets and did absolutely nothing except get caught with steroids.
Yeah, well, what else is new? With baseball, you can't sit here and argue your points because there's nothing to argue about. What we do know about the baseball season so far this year is both New York teams stink, and both New York teams right now, I would say the Yankees are the only team out of both these teams that are going to make the play. The Mets are not making the playoffs the way they're playing. They could get hot and they're not making the playoffs. It's not enough. I think the Mets need to be sellers. They need to be sellers this offseason. Try to shed money. If you want Shohei Ohtani, go after Shohei Ohtani and Soto in the offseason. Get rid of players and just go all at it. Uncle Steven wants to open his pockets, pay for friggin' $1 billion.
Right.
You have $1 billion. You want these 2 guys? You want to change everything and you want to change your way of winning a championship? Well, go after these guys. They're going to be available.
Right, and you look at Escobar as the first start to that. Maybe some other veteran hitters get traded too. Maybe Marte, if he can get some value out of him.
How about Mike Trout?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to think about because Mike Trout has on that big contract too. So are the Angels even going to get the return value coming back to it too? They're going to get obviously some good players, and the Mets do have some good young players they could trade. But
they're not going to get as much as they could have had a couple of years ago.
Right.
And right now, Mike Trout's not even the best player on his team. Shohei Ohtani is. Right. Could you imagine if they got both of those guys? I could see it.